Hello everyone, this is Miss Williams. This is our first attempt at a flipped classroom. So we're going to start with a review lesson. The lesson is I can multiply and divide rational expressions, or in other words, I can multiply and divide fractions that have variables. Okay, so we're going to start with the multiplying rational expressions. What you need to remember about multiplying fractions is that you just multiply straight across. Okay, you're always going to factor first and then cancel it out if possible. And what you have left is going to be your answer. Now we're going to start with one which is just a simplifying one because there's no multiplication in here, and it's x squared minus 4 over x squared minus 5x plus 14. Now remember, the first thing you should always do is put parentheses around everything in the top and everything in the bottom when it's connected by addition and subtraction signs, because the addition and subtraction signs are going to hold everything together. Next thing we're going to need to do is factor x squared minus 4. There's no greatest common factor that comes out of this, so what you're going to need to do is do difference of two squares, and that would be x plus 2 and x minus 2. The expression on the bottom is a trinomial. It's got three terms, x squared minus 5x minus 14. So you're going to look for two numbers that multiply to give you the last number, which is negative 14, and add to give you the middle number, which is negative 5. So thinking about that, I get the two numbers negative 7 and positive 2. Finally, my last step is to cancel out anything that is exactly the same on the numerator and denominator. So I see that I have an x plus 2 on the top and an x plus 2 on the bottom, so those two cancel each other out. And my final answer is whatever I have left that hasn't been canceled out. So my final answer would be x minus 2 over x minus 7. Okay. Here's another example of multiplying. It's not really harder, it's just a longer problem. So here we see we have 4 different trinomials. So in each set of trinomials, they're already in parentheses, so the addition and subtraction signs have connected those things together. We're not allowed to cancel out the x squareds in the front because they are attached to something else. So we're going to take each trinomial and we're going to factor it, looking for two numbers that multiply to give you the last number and add to give you the middle number. So in this first equation and the second equation, we're going to do the tops first. So two numbers that multiply to give me 5 and add to give me negative 6 are negative 5 and negative 1. Two numbers that multiply to give me positive 15 and add to give me 8 are 5 and 3. I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom. Two numbers that multiply to give me negative 15 and add to give me positive 2 are negative 3 and positive 5. And two numbers that multiply to give you negative 3 and add to give you positive 2 are positive 3 and positive 3 and positive 1, excuse me. Alright, finally I'm going to cancel out anything that is identical. So I look through what I have on the top and the bottom. I can only cancel one for one. So even if I had two of the exact same thing on the top and one on the bottom, I can only cancel one of those in each spot. So I see I have an x plus 3 on the top, and it does not cancel with the x minus 3, but it does cancel with the x plus 3 on the bottom. And also looking around, it looks like I have an x plus 5 on the top and an x plus 5 on the bottom. Okay, so my final answer is everything I didn't cancel out. X minus 5 and x minus 1 on top, x minus 3 and x plus 1 on the bottom. Great, now we will move on to a couple of examples of dividing. The thing you have to remember about dividing is that when you divide, you really are just multiplying by the reciprocal. Now if you can't remember what reciprocal means, it's really what you're going to do is just flip that second fraction, and instead of dividing, you're going to now multiply. Okay, so we're going to start with this expression right here. So x squared minus 4x over x squared minus 9, and we're dividing by x squared plus 3x over x minus 3. So the very first thing I have to do before I start factoring is that I'm going to switch the second fraction only. And when I switch it, I'm going to change it from division to multiplication, and then the numerator comes to the bottom, and the denominator comes to the top. Okay. Next I'm going to factor. So if I'm looking at my tops, only the first expression is going to factor, excuse me. So what can you take out of x squared and a 4x? Well, you can take an x out of both of those. Alright? And if you notice, x times x is x squared, x times negative 4 is negative 4x. Okay, x minus 3 does not factor, so I just leave it alone. Then I look at my two bottoms. X squared minus 9 is difference of two squares. And then x squared plus 3x, I'm going to be able to factor out an x out of both of those. Okay, so x squared minus 9 becomes x plus 3x minus 3. X squared plus 3x is x times x plus 3. Cancel out things that match. So I'm looking for x minus 3 on the bottom and an x minus 3 on top. And then I also have a x, just an x that stands alone on both the bottom and the top. So I can cancel all those out. So it looks like my final answer would be x minus 4 over x plus 3 times x plus 3. You can actually write that a little condensed if you want to as x minus 4 over x plus 3 squared, but you don't have to do that. And finally, one more example. Trinomial, x squared plus 4x plus 4. Remember how we factor those? Alright, but before I start factoring, the first thing I want to do, because it says division, is I'm going to flip this second fraction. Alright, so there we go, I flipped that. Alright, so here we go, the numerators, the top of the fractions. First one is a trinomial, and the next one is a binomial, it's only 2 terms. And I notice that it is a difference of 2 squares. X that's been squared and 25 is actually 5 that's been squared. Alright? So, trinomial, going back to my trinomial. 2 numbers that multiply to give me 4 and add to give me 4. That's 2 and 2. And then there's my difference of 2 squares. On the bottom, x minus 5 is not going to cancel. Sorry, it's not going to factor. But 5x plus 10, I can take a 5 out of both of those. So when I take a 5 out, I end up with x plus 2. And my last step is that I'm going to cancel out things that are identical in the numerator and denominator. So it looks like I have an x plus 2 on top, but only x plus 1 on the bottom. So I can only cancel 1 for 1 now. Okay, the second x plus 2 has to remain at the top. And I'll see I also have an x minus 5 and x minus 5, so I can cancel that out. Alright, so it looks like my final answer is going to be x plus 2 times x plus 5 on the numerator in the top. And on the bottom, the only thing it looks like I have left is just a constant of 5. Okay? So, thanks for listening. I will talk to you guys later.